we'll go here. Okay. Hello. Sorry for the shaking. I had to move my desk a little bit. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Love Your Liver live stream. I am Dr. Garrett Smith, known as the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts. And we are going to have an all subscriber. So if you're a channel subscriber, you can go in the chat and you can post questions. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can today. I go in the order that they're posted unless somebody does a super chat. If you got a super chat, goes to the top of the list, and hopefully I won't miss them today. I was covering some of my missed super chats last week. So if you did a super chat in the last couple weeks and I didn't get to it, I got to it last week. So go watch last week's episode. Sometimes when you scroll down the chat, it just jumps and you miss things. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, my website is nutritiondetective.com. If you'd like my free course called The Madness of Modern Nutrition, you can just go to madnessofmodernnutrition.com. And yeah, we've just got, for those of you who use our supplements, we just came out with a new zinc liquid, zinc picolinate liquid, which can be dosed down at 2 milligrams a drop. So for those often that I deal with who are very sensitive to zinc because it tends to dump copper out into your system. It displaces copper from the liver because it's kicking it out because it doesn't want it. But anyway, lower dosing zinc can help a lot of people to get the right dose as opposed to having to take 15 milligram pills, 30 milligram pills and stuff like that, or not being able to take pills because they're just too big. The zinc liquid also gets rid of all the additives and fillers problem, which is a big thing for all of our supplements. We don't use additives or fillers, which is pretty unique these days. It's really hard to find that. So anyway, I'm going to be coming out with some really cool supplements. We had very big developments in one of the most exciting things in the supplement world we're doing right now. So that we got good news this week, and I'm testing out a sample of it when it gets here. So anyway, very exciting developments. So let me get into the questions. So first question, Gretchen asks, please share any thoughts about optimal timing of things like activated charcoal, psyllium seed, etc. before or after meals, away from food, before bed. Thanks, Dr. Smith. Well, that's like, just share optimal timing of everything is like a huge question. That's a bit extensive. We'll say it that way. Charcoal. First thing with charcoal for anybody is the timing of, I just realized I was changing out my lights. I was changing out my Himalayan pink salt lamp light, and I had one that was working, and I brought it up there. And then the light crapped out as I moved it, and then I didn't remember to move it again before we started. So now I have 2 Himalayan salt lamps behind me, neither of which are working. The bulbs are en route, but they're not going to happen this time. So anyway, activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is one of the strongest bile binding agents known to man, which makes it really powerful in terms of soaking up bile, and therefore not enough bile touching your guts will constipate the heck out of you. So if you're not pooping at least once a day, but even better is twice a day, you don't even think about charcoal. Don't even think about it, because you'll just stop up and then you won't poop for 1 or 2 days. And the optimal way to get rid of toxic bile is pooping. So if you're not pooping, that's part of why you're toxic. Okay, if the bile doesn't go into your intestines, you don't poop. If it's not going into your intestines, it's going somewhere else. It's either getting stored in your liver, or it's basically going backwards into your blood and causing you symptoms like low thyroid symptoms. So low thyroid symptom is constipation. Not enough bile in your intestines causes constipation. I've been over the study about different thyroid states being linked to different bile acid compositions, recipes in the blood. It's all connected. If you're not pooping well, don't even think about charcoal. And just so you know, I have, I think, 16 different articles about charcoal in the Love Your Liver program. So if you want all the details, I'm not going to go over all the details on charcoal right here, but if you want all the details, it's in the Love Your Liver program. So that's members.nutritiondetective.com. You can also get there through the Madness of Modern Nutrition course to that area, the Mighty Networks that we use. So charcoal in terms of food, I'm just going to debunk one of the greatest myths about charcoal. I'm going to tell you that the people in charge really don't want you taking charcoal. So they've made up all over the internet urban legends like charcoal depletes nutrients. And I challenge anyone out there to find me an actual study on people, humans, or animals that shows that actively taking charcoal causes any kind of nutrient deficiency ever. You won't find it. Why would they try to scare you away from something that binds up toxic bile so well? Weird. It's almost like they don't want you getting well. So anyway, there is no problem with charcoal and supplements. There is no problem with charcoal and food. There's no problem with taking charcoal with anything because charcoal, the way the adsorption works, is it always adsorbs and changes out for the most toxic things it comes across. It's not grabbing your good minerals and your good vitamins, if there are any. Anyway, psyllium, fiber. Depends on what you're trying to do with the fiber, but you can pretty much do it any time. If somebody was trying to, let's say, help themselves to, let's say they were trying to facilitate the loss of body fat, doing some fiber between meals can help it, and letting it soak so it gels could help you to feel full for a while so that you don't feel like you need to eat. That can help certain people. Fiber is obviously very filling, so if you're trying to gain weight, too much fiber may or may not be productive for you because it makes you eat less. Well, it doesn't make you, it changes your desires, if you will. It changes your satiation. But what we do is with these things, do them, you can mix fiber and charcoal if you're able to take that, but anytime works. I will often do my charcoal and fiber between meals because I tend to have too big an appetite, and it helps me to not feel so hungry. Because I've been known as a kid as the guy who just eats a ton. I used to eat 3 plates at dinner sometimes. It was bonkers. So I just tend to eat a lot. So helping me not to do that is something. I'm an overtype. If you don't know what over and under types are, I go over that in the program too. I'm absolutely an overtype. Overtypes tend to medicate their toxic bile by eating more. That's one of the ways we medicate the problem. Undertypes tend to medicate it by not eating. And I'm not going to go into the reasons why here. But yeah, there's, somebody's trying to, I'll give you a quick example. I had somebody sent to me, young man, son of a lawyer I knew, and he said, my son is throwing up every night, violently throwing up at 3 to 3:30 a.m. Can you help him? He sent me a picture of the 3 medications the gastroenterologist had put him on. 3 medications to not throw up. It wasn't working. So I talked to the young man on a call as a favor to my buddy. And I talked to him about charcoal, and I said, we're going to go into you're going to have to figure out which one of these works better. I said, it's a bile dump in the middle of the night. That 2 to 4 a.m., it's when you tend to dump bile at night. You can look up circadian rhythm of bile. Just look up circadian bile on PubMed. You'll find tons of studies. There's an absolute circadian rhythm of bile. And then people go, those who have messed up circadian rhythms tend to get cancer. Oh my gosh, they're connected maybe. Bile going into your blood. So I told him, I said, you're going to do one of 2 things. You're going to have to experiment to see which one of these works. I said, you're going to put a glass of charcoal in water by your bed. And you're going to have 2 options. One, would be because he said he would throw up about 3 to 5 minutes after he woke up. So I said, here's what you can do. You wake up. When you wake up, you're going to stir up that charcoal. You're going to slam that glass down. Get it down. If that's done, if that's enough time for the charcoal to do its work, you shouldn't throw up. I said, if that doesn't work, we need to get it in earlier. So then I want you to set an alarm for about half an hour before you would wake up, typically. Down that glass of charcoal, and that should do it. And then I said, if you get to the point and that's working, hopefully we'll get to the point where you could have charcoal before you go to bed, and it'll be in your system long enough to stop the vomiting. Now, I never actually did a follow-up with him because I talked to his dad, and I said, how's he doing? And he said, oh, within about 3 days, he had it under control. He didn't tell me. I said, which one is he doing? Is he doing it like right when he wakes up? Is he doing it a half hour before? He's like, I don't know. He just did what you said, and it worked. And so he's off all 3 meds. And, so nausea and vomiting often is bile in your stomach. It's cholestasis. It's bile going backwards into your stomach. And so we can fix it by soaking up the bile. But somebody might have GERD or acid reflux, which is really bile reflux. Your stomach was made to handle stomach acid. The idea that you can make too much stomach acid for your stomach is ludicrous. You have the wrong stuff in your stomach. It's called bile. So we fix it. You can, but did this young man necessarily fix the root cause of his problem? We didn't really go into that. I was helping him with an acute problem. And he didn't come back to do the nutrition stuff with me. So his problem may keep coming back and coming back and coming back because his diet and the toxicities and the deficiencies are the root cause. And he's not necessarily dealing with that. Now, will charcoal over time potentially soak up some of the toxicity? Sure. But if he's putting it in at all faster than it's coming out, he's going to slowly accumulate toxicity. This is just math. It's just math. It's like making more money than you spend. You slowly save money and get more money. Or the opposite is true. If you spend more than you make, you run out of money slowly or quickly. But yeah, so that's kind of, if you have a time of day where you tend to have a bad time, like, you know what I'm talking about. There's, a lot of us have times where it's like, ooh, this time of day is like really bad for me. Well, if you know you can take stuff that binds up bile a half hour, an hour before that, you might be able to shut that down. So that's kind of the timing stuff of it. Now, if you're taking medications, here's a fun one. Medications are generally toxic. So what's the charcoal going to do to your medications? It's going to soak it up. It's toxic. So if you're taking medications, which if you work with me, we'd probably eventually have you off of them. But if you're taking medications and you want them to do their job, you need to take the charcoal at least an hour before or 2 hours after to spread it out so you can get that medication toxin into your system. And if you're taking anything else that's toxic, like if you're going to drink coffee in the morning, which is multiple pesticides in it, that's what it's designed as, and you take charcoal around the same time, caffeine's not going to work. You're going to soak up the caffeine with the charcoal. So that's timing stuff. So if you want the toxins to work, you got to spread out the charcoal from it. Generally, you can take it with food. You can take it between meals. I talked about kind of the before bed, middle of the night thing. So if you wake up in the middle of the night with a bile dump, which is usually what's waking you up all sweaty and hot, and you got to pee and your brain's racing, well, that's because your liver just dumped a toxic load into your bloodstream. That's what happened. You don't just wake up with those symptoms for no reason. And it's not just because it's the gallbladder time. It's, the liver and gallbladder time, as they say in Chinese medicine. What would that be connected to? bile. So there's some stuff on that. Okay. I saw a super chat. Let me go find that. There it is. Ramon, my regular super chatter. Hi, Ramon. Thank you for that. He says, hi, Dr. Smith. A soft cut of meat I eat raw. However, for a tougher cut of meat, should you pressure cook or slow cook it for hours? As always, thanks. I don't know that either one. I mean, pressure cooking and slow cooking is going to be it's going to be, moist cooking, if you will, cooking with water where the temperature's not going to go above a certain point, like the boiling point of water, like steam, and the transition point of water as a liquid to water as steam, 212. So it's not going to go much above that. Generally, if you're cooking it with water, for those of you who don't know, I went over this, I think, last week or the week before. Cooking in water is a way to really reduce the toxicity that can be added to meat by cooking it at high temperatures. Cooking it at high temperatures is, I'm not going to say I don't do it. I'm not going to say to never do it. I'm just going to say, but like grilling, you're like burning the meat and then you're eating burnt meat. Eating burnt anything, let me put it to you this way. This should be obvious. This is not me being a health nut. This should be obvious. Eating burnt things, like crisp, I mean, first of all, don't eat deep fried food. That's just dumb. That's just nobody looks at deep fried food and they're like, oh wait, no, we're going to argue that that's healthy. Nobody does that. Okay. So eating deep fried food, just if you're doing it and you don't feel good, you did it. Everybody knows deep fried food is garbage. If you're eating deep fried food in restaurants, you're eating like GMO soy oil to deep fry stuff that they put a batter on to soak up more of that GMO soy oil for you to eat. Restaurants don't care about your health. They care about their bottom line and making food taste good, so you want to come back. So you should know that every time you're eating at a restaurant, you're simply trying to fight against sickness with that meal. You're trying to make that meal, if you're even trying, you're trying to make that meal as least bad for you, because you could do a hell of a lot better at home, right? So, burning meat. Somebody will be there. My mom's coming. Sorry, this live thing is just these couple last weeks. I swear, man. Never had anything like this. So sorry, that just distracted me. So many things going on in my life these days. Okay. We were talking about, the cooking. Burnt food is bad for you. This should be simple. Eating charred stuff is bad for you. Nobody should really be arguing this. Microwave food is bad for you. I see people on Twitter, they're like, microwave food is not bad for you. You're a quack. And I'm like, are you kidding me? People who still defend microwaving food and then like cell phones microwave your brain. Do you know this? They're microwave. That's why your ear gets hot when you talk on your phone a long time. It's microwaving your brain. Microwaving changes proteins. You ever notice how when you cook meat in a microwave, parts of it get really weird and rubbery? It's changing the protein structures. Don't eat microwave garbage. Avoid the microwave. I would not microwave anything I planned on eating. The only thing I might microwave, which was back from when I had, when I had babies around, I would microwave the water to warm up the breast milk bottles in. That's about the only thing I would use a microwave for, is to warm up water that I was never going to consume and was not going to be part of my food. So, deep frying things, charred things, microwave things, don't eat them. In general, like, I mean, are people going to do it? You're going to go to a restaurant, they're going to microwave something you eat. You're not going to know it. Hey, You eat at a restaurant, you're at their mercy. And, who doesn't want to have French fries every once in a while? Yeah, I get it. I'm not saying you have to be perfect for the rest of your life. But as a general rule, if you can cook, for those of you especially who are really, really sick or really, really sensitive, if you cook your meat in some form of water moist cooking, whether that's steaming it, whether that's boiling it, whether that's pressure cooking it, whether that's slow cooking it, that is better for you than burning it, frying it, microwaving it. Okay? And I do think if you have good meat that you can eat, that you're comfortable with eating it raw, I think that's totally fine on occasion. It doesn't. One thing I've talked to some people that we've noticed is that raw meat doesn't fill you up as much as cooked meat does, which is a very interesting thing that multiple people have noted. So that's kind of a weird thing. So I hope that answered your question, Ramon. But yeah, just generally moist cooking. The less you cook things, I mean, cooking you need to do it with certain foods. Okay. Let me clarify this. I was talking about meat. With all that cooking stuff, I was specifically talking about meat. So I'm not going to go say eat raw oats. Okay, I'm not saying that. I was specifically talking about meat in that. Okay. So, let me see. Simon Burt asks, how to resolve peripheral neuropathy. This is a nagging problem for me. I'm 14 months into the Love Your Liver program. Well, there can be multiple causes of peripheral neuropathy, but the biggest thing I get into is the biggest thing I get into, I mean, there could be B6 toxicity. For those of you who don't know, vitamin B6, pyridoxine is an alcohol. Wait, ethanol's an alcohol, retinol's an alcohol, pyridoxine's an alcohol, and everybody who goes, oh, well, the active form of B6 is pyridoxal 5-phosphate. Well, how does science hide aldehydes from you? They shorten it to AL. Pyridoxal is pyridoxaldehyde. You can go look it up. I'm not making this up. And then there is an acid form of B6 that it can turn into. So now there's ethanol, which turns into acetaldehyde, which is what hurts you so bad from alcohol. Acetaldehyde is why you get hangovers. Acetaldehyde is what kills people from alcohol poisoning. Aldehydes are really bad. And then you have acetic acid, which is what it eventually turns into. That's vinegar. That's the active ingredient in vinegar. Okay. Retinol. Well, there's retinol, retinaldehyde, and retinoic acid. And then you have pyridoxine, pyridoxal, and I forget what the acid is of B6. B6 accumulates in your nerves. B6 toxicity is known to cause peripheral neuropathy. So I would look into your history and first make sure that you don't have a history of taking high doses of B6. And if you do, then you may want to look at what you are eating, which this is not something I specifically address in the Love Your Liver program, other than I definitely don't push B6 supplements. What do I think B6 can do? I think it can bind to some toxic stuff and act as an antidote. But antidotes that are taken when people don't need them eventually turn on them and then cause problems. Gosh, B6 toxicity. There used to be about 10 groups on Facebook of B6 toxicity. B6 toxicity seemed to be more widely known than vitamin A toxicity. And people specifically said in those groups that they got B6 toxicity from their diet alone. So, there's that. Then we get into copper toxicity. Copper toxicity can be confusing because some of the very strange thing can happen where people who are really toxic, especially undertypes who are underweight, They may even look like they have low copper on their blood test. And they're extremely sensitive to anything that stirs up copper in their system. They're super copper toxic in the liver. It's just the copper stuck in their liver. It's not coming out. And as we start treating them slowly, based on testing, not guessing, and by going by their symptoms, which is how I help people by their follow-ups in the office hours. For those of you who don't know, I do things a bit differently than other practitioners. I give people who buy the consultation packages with me 6 months of optional follow-ups via small group Zoom calls, 6 months of potential follow-ups to troubleshoot people's reactions. I was just thinking of this the other day, how many doctors out there, practitioners, many of you might have seen, who they charge anywhere from $500 to $1,000 just for the consult. And then just like, go and do it. Here's your list of things. Take this giant list of supplements. It's only about $300 a month just for the supplements. And if you need any help along the way, well, you'll have to pay $250, $300 to come in for another visit. They nickel and dime you. I don't do that. This is why we get places with people that other practitioners don't, is because we don't just send you off into the ether and we're like, oh, I hope it works out for you. I hope the doses I put on the treatment plan were okay. That's not what we do. One woman is like, that I'm working with, super sensitive to zinc, like even zinc in foods. Like she has to eat chicken breast because the zinc in red meat is too much for her. You think we would have figured this out if she had to pay for every follow-up that she needed? No. She came to the office hours and we figured it out. I also went by my complicated treatment algorithm, which is called, Doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do that. Let's do something else. It's amazing, right? A lot of you go to practitioners who are like, you need to take this supplement to get better. And the patient's like, this makes me feel like hot garbage. I can't take it. I won't take it. And then the doctor goes, well, I guess I can't help you then. You should go find somebody else. How many of you out there had that happen to you, where you got fired because you couldn't take the magic pill that the doctor wanted you to take? Do they not have any other options? Or is it that their one symptom suppressor, you couldn't take it, and so then they're like, well, you're not going to suppress your symptoms my way, so I guess I can't help you because we don't actually know the cause. Copper toxicity is huge. Anything buzzing, anything tingling, anything that feels electric is so very often copper toxicity. I think we've gone over before here about how diabetics have a bunch more copper in them. Here, I'll just do a quick. So like if we were thinking of peripheral neuropathy, I'm not saying you're diabetic. I'm saying if we're thinking of peripheral neuropathy, and diabetes and peripheral neuropathy are kind of like, so let's just do a quick thing. Diabetes, serum, copper, PubMed. Oh, wow. Another disease that we've gone over before. Here's the title of the paper: Diabetes and Alzheimer's Disease. Can elevated free copper predict the risk of the disease? Do I even need to read the study at all? Here's the conclusion. These results suggest the involvement of catalytically active copper-2 and glucose dysregulation and oxidative stress reactions, leading to tissue damage in both diseases. Oh, let's go over this one for you ceruloplasmin junkies. Serum copper profile in patients with type 1 diabetes in comparison to other metals. Okay, so some people think that ceruloplasmin is the answer to all problems. You just need more ceruloplasmin, and then it'll make more bioavailable copper, and that'll fix everything. This is garbage. Here we go. Results. A main finding of this study was that total copper and ceruloplasmin levels were higher in persons with type 1 diabetes compared to healthy controls. Wait, did they just tell me that type 1 diabetics had higher copper and higher ceruloplasmin than healthy people? Do not believe the bioavailable copper BS. It's garbage. Do we need enough ceruloplasmin to protect us against copper? Yes. You know what lowers ceruloplasmin, as we've covered in the infamous chicken study? When they put the chickens on a low vitamin A diet, their ceruloplasmin went up. But yet the protocol people say that you need vitamin A to raise ceruloplasmin, and they completely ignore the chicken study, and they use a cell study where they used retin-A on the cells to justify their position, to have you take toxic cod liver oil and garbage like that. I fix these people once they realize their mistake. But copper is huge, and if people are not testing copper, Simon, copper affects men. Men, listen, ladies, you have more copper problems in general than men, and this is mainly due to birth control. Birth control messed you up. Almost guaranteed, if I do my testing on you, you're going to have high copper and low zinc. Almost guaranteed. Ladies can handle, this isn't a good thing, but it's saying ladies can handle higher copper levels than men. Probably because, ladies are naturally more estrogenic. Copper is estrogenic. So like a hyperestrogenic state affects women less than a hyperestrogenic state in men. Hope that makes sense. It's not saying that the hyperestrogenic state is good for anybody, but it affects men a little bit more than women. Now, other minerals like iron affects men. High ferritin affects men a bit less than women. High calcium affects men a lot more negatively than it does women. Those are just some patterns. Doesn't mean anything's good or bad. We still want to fix it in everybody. But it's just when I see, like, so in a man, Simon, if you had a copper toxicity, it's going to affect you more at like if somebody had a copper, 115 in the serum, that's going to affect a man a lot. And a woman might be kind of like, yeah, I've got some menstrual problems. I got some anxiety, it wouldn't be a big deal, but the man would be like, I got all sorts of issues. So copper's a huge thing. What do we do about copper? Well, we use zinc. People who have messed up copper stuff, especially undertypes, are extremely sensitive to zinc because it stirs everything up. So we have to tiptoe. And this is where the ongoing support that I give can be really, really helpful, because I can let people know that what they're doing is okay, that I help guide them. So that'd be a big thing. Now, there could be a B1 deficiency, thiamine deficiency. This is a symptom of something else. If you want to know what B1 does to help fix everybody's like, there's so many people out there who are like, B1 fixes everything. And I'm going to say, if you need drug doses of a B vitamin, that's not the root cause. Remember, Merck and the Rockefellers figured out vitamins as a new revenue stream. They were worried about their pharmaceutical revenue streams running out. And so then they went into the study of vitamins. Guess who makes nearly all the vitamins for all the supplements today? Pharmaceutical houses over in China and India. You're still buying pharma products when you buy vitamins. Okay? So, B1 binds to aldehydes. That's what it does. That's how it helps. I talked about aldehydes earlier. Gosh, wait, if somebody had too much B6 in their nerves, which is an aldehyde, And then they did some B1 to bind to it and maybe have it cause less damage. Could that help? Sure. Yeah. Vitamin A toxicity is an aldehyde. Many things are aldehydes that smell a lot, especially, there's cinnamaldehyde is 70 to 95% of cinnamon. Cumin aldehyde in the spice cumin. Vanillin in vanilla is an aldehyde. All these fancy smelly things you use in your kitchen, or those essential oils, or anything scented, is probably got significant aldehydes in it, and it's stressing your liver. But yeah, the peripheral neuropathy, it's most likely. Well, let's go see this. Let me go do. Oops, not PubMed. So, just as an example, here's a paper. Zinc deficiency correlates with severity of diabetic polyneuropathy. Oh wait, actually, let me find the study that I see the super chat. I will get to that. So let's go zinc deficiency scoliosis. So I had a scoliosis. Well, I have a very, very minor scoliosis. And my daughter, my lovely little daughter, got she absolutely genetically got my structure. Absolutely. And I had a scoliosis as a kid, and so does she. So we were at an orthopedic doctor because my daughter's a dancer and she had a little bit of an injury, and he's looking at her and she has a little bit of a scoliosis. And I'm sitting there in the office as I do. So I'm with her and I'm thinking, I wonder what zinc has to do with scoliosis. Because I know I need a ton of zinc. Or just in general. And I was going, so my daughter's got my physique genetically. I wonder if zinc, because I know I was zinc deficient as a kid. Let me look up zinc deficiency and scoliosis. So the paper, zinc status in patients with idiopathic scoliosis. But remember, idiopathic means that doctors have no idea what the hell is causing it. They're just saying we're clueless, which is all right to say. They just have to use a fancy word so nobody knows what they're talking about. They have to make it sound like medical, idiopathic, and they're just saying we have no freaking idea. Read this, listen to these couple of sentences. A significant decrease in zinc content in back muscles was observed in patients with scoliosis. Let me read that one again. A significant decrease of zinc content in back muscles was observed in patients with scoliosis. And then they say, these results do not suggest that there is a primary zinc deficiency in patients with idiopathic scoliosis. The authors consider the decreased zinc content in back muscle of patients with idiopathic scoliosis to be a secondary disturbance associated with primary deformation of the spinal column. So they're trying to say that the spine being out of whack caused the zinc deficiency in the muscles. Now, let's not be moronic here. Let's be intelligent. What do bones use to move? Do bones move around on their own? Do bones move on their own? What moves your bones? Your muscles. So if your bones were constantly out of place, you following me? It's probably from the muscles. I mean, seriously. So let's just say, so let's say the decrease in zinc content was causing the muscles to fire incorrectly because there's a biochemical deficiency. The muscles don't fire right. They pull the bones out of place, and then you have a scoliosis. But these doctors wanted to say, no, the bones, which don't move on their own, are causing the zinc deficiency in the muscles. I look at my history and I go, I know I used to be very, very zinc deficient because I know it takes me a lot of zinc to keep my levels where they need to be. My daughter is like there's a saying out there, I don't know if you guys have heard it, where the first daughter is like the female version of the father. It's this thing that's out there. How true it is, I mean, I'm not going to go pull up a PubMed study on it or anything, but in my case, absolutely. My daughter is the female version of me. I get a kick out of it. I love it. So anyway, so she got my physique. She probably got my zinc deficiency. And we're going to fix it. And we may just see some of the scoliosis resolve itself. Wouldn't that be cool? Toxicity and deficiency. This is what we fix. Oh, let's go. Let's do this. Let's do copper peripheral neuropathy med. I want you to see, like, I'm not going to the second page of searches or anything. Copper deficiency induced neuropathy, a sticky situation. That's the title of the paper. Copper deficiency induced neuropathy. What did this guy do? I'm not going to say what he did. Okay, here's what he did. We report a case of acquired copper deficiency secondary to zinc toxicity caused by chronic use of denture adhesives. Okay, I want to help you guys with something here. I don't know how much I believe in copper deficiency. Zinc toxicity can happen. I'm not going to argue that. Zinc toxicity, I've dealt with multiple people who have caused themselves to get zinc toxic because they don't listen to my warnings, they don't test, and they take higher doses for long term than I suggest. Is zinc toxicity a real thing? Yes. As people say, you can kill yourself by drinking too much water, but does that mean you don't need water? No, you need water, but you could kill yourself with too much. You need zinc, but you could kill yourself with too much. Almost every copper deficiency thing you find in the research will be a zinc toxicity in disguise. But they blame the copper deficiency. Could you give copper to undo some of the zinc toxicity? Sure, they're antagonists. That doesn't mean that they needed copper. It means that they needed less zinc. So, there's that. Let me see if I can find it. Copper deficiency myeloneuropathy. Yeah, great. Bet we'll find zinc toxicity there. Almost everybody does it with zinc. There was a guy, let me give you a quick story. There was a guy who I was working with who, after a while, he was taking 150 milligrams of zinc a day because of like Charles Poliquin type nutrition guruism for his sexual function, if you know what I mean. And he eventually caused himself problems where he'd feel bad and he'd take some copper and he'd feel better for a little while. A couple days. He was having to do this cycle like within several weeks' time, 2 or 3 weeks' time. So he'd take the zinc again, and then he'd start feeling bad, and then he'd have to take the copper again, and then he'd feel a little better, but then the copper would start him feeling bad because that's what it does, and then he'd have to take the zinc again. And so he was stuck in this cycle of overdosing zinc, having to take copper, overdosing zinc, having to take copper to feel decent. 150 milligrams of zinc a day is absolutely, once you get, even in the literature, over 100 milligrams, of zinc a day or more is absolutely zinc toxicity territory. You are playing with fire, especially if you're using a good zinc like zinc picolinate, not garbage zinc sulfate. So, don't give yourself zinc toxicity. How seriously do I take zinc? I test zinc in the plasma, so a blood test, and on the hair test. And I give people follow-up support so that if I'm watching them and they're taking, a little on the higher dose of zinc, so they can give me feedback and I can go, oh, wait, you might be on too much zinc. Let's cut that back. So we use labs, we use the symptoms they came to me with, and then we use their responses along the way to guide their dosing of zinc. Everybody else out there is just like willy-nilly, like, oh yeah, just take 50 milligrams of zinc a day. Good luck. I look at the long-term safe dose for most people, hedging my bets, zinc picolinate, 30 milligrams a day. You want to go over that? I highly suggest testing. That's what I've come to. I'm not saying 30 milligrams is the perfect dose for anybody. I'm saying I'm going to keep on the safe side and err on the side of caution for people who are out there taking zinc with no guidance at all. Don't give children weapons and then wonder why they hurt themselves with it. So you give them fake weapons. You give them weapons that are not dangerous. So they could play around with them and maybe learn how not to mess themselves up with it. You teach them safety and all that stuff. This is the same thing with nutrients, folks. You can supplements they have risks to them, not big ones, but there's risks involved. So if you don't want to take it seriously, I take my job very seriously. I'm not just throwing random recommendations for supplements out there like a protocol. I don't do that. That's not what we do. So I've had a woman who only needed 5 milligrams of zinc a day to completely refill her zinc stores. I've had a woman who did really well on 1 milligram of zinc a day. She felt so much better on 1 milligram of zinc a day, but 2 milligrams was too much. I've had people who went up, 100. There's stories I've heard of people going up to 300 milligrams of zinc a day. I mentioned that. Am I saying to do it? No. Was this person under my guidance? No. They did it on their own. Did they come out of it okay? Yes. But some situations require extreme approaches and some don't. And if you go and you decide to hear that and you decide to do an extreme approach and it ends badly for you, hey, that's on you. I didn't tell you to do it. You're in charge of your own health. I'm a guide. And most of the time, we're going to dip our toe in the water before we jump in. Isn't that smart? Right? Maybe know how deep the water is before you dive head first into it. Isn't that smart? So you don't break your damn neck. People out there think this is a game. This is not a game. This is life or death. This is your long-term health, which is life or death. Take it seriously. Invest in it. Take your time. Don't just join the Love Your Liver program and not read the articles and not watch the videos and then wonder why you're not getting all of it. You don't get benefits from the Love Your Liver program just by joining. You got to do the work. We're undoing decades worth of toxicities and deficiencies in people. And that was not all directed at you, Simon. By any means, this is just general stuff. But those are the things that I would look at. Absolutely. Those are the areas. Let me go. I think I just want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats. There it is. Okay. MD did Rhiannon, thank you for the. Oh, we saw the super chat. Wait, they skipped it again. I swear this thing just jumps. I can't stand this scrolling thing. It'll just jump to the end. Let me see. So Rhiannon, you said there's a question above, I think. Or no, that's MD. So Rhiannon, I don't see a question from you, but thank you for that. I think that's a super chat or it's a sticker or whatever. I'm still new to all this stuff. I'll see if I can find it. If anybody saw Rhiannon's, if she had a question, let me know. Okay, so D2000, D200,000. Let me see. Let me find your question. Got to scroll through it. There it is. Okay. Hello, so MDS, hello, can enlarged right segment of liver be a sign of any toxicity problems? I also have bile reflux. Thank you. So, okay. Basically, in this paradigm that we are working on, if you have bile reflux, if you have reflux going up into your stomach, which is GERD, which is acid reflux, which is heartburn, you have what we call cholestasis, which is bile going in the wrong places. So yes, that then points to some sort of what we call liver injury, cholestasis, toxic bile going into places it shouldn't, like the stomach, or leaking into your bloodstream. It's all connected. They're all terms that I use interchangeably. So yes. Is there something wrong with your liver? Yes. I mean, the liver is the root of all this. That's why we're the Love Your Liver program, is because if you fix your liver really well, not just taking milk thistle. Oh my gosh. It's amazing that people think that it's as easy as that. They're like, I just take some milk thistle and my liver just fixes itself. It's like, yeah, no, you're actually slowing down your liver, cytochrome P450 systems in your liver. And you're getting a false sense of relief, and it's going to end poorly because the liver doesn't have a milk thistle deficiency. Never did. Can we do things short term to help the liver that make things look nicer on like liver enzyme tests and maybe relieve symptoms for a while? Yes, the whole basis of making tests look better and relieving symptoms for a while is pharmaceutical medicine, is it not? That's pharmaceutical medicine, is giving you a toxin that hopefully makes your labs look better and maybe relieves your symptoms for a while. But do almost all of them stop working after a while or make you worse? Isn't this common? Isn't this what they do? Isn't this why they have the giant list of side effects on all the commercials? Because they damage your liver. And then you start leaking more and more toxic bile into your bloodstream. And then you get new symptoms in new places, new weak links in your chain break. And then you get new problems. And then they give you more meds. You can do the same thing with herbs. So anyway, I'm out of Kleenex. I have an itchy nose. Hold on. Okay. So if you know your liver's enlarged, well, that's either going to be like fatty liver or some sort of inflammation. So yeah, your liver's not doing well. What the cause of that? So people often want to know what caused my problem, my liver problem. Some of us will be able to go back and look at our health history and absolutely, like, someday I'll do this. I'll go through all the things in my health history where I can figure out where I was overdosing on vitamin A, where I took ketoconazole, where I took different antibiotics. You know, I got the normal vaccinations as a kid, which wasn't as many as you guys are getting today if you're younger than me. I'm 47. Those of you who are half my age probably got twice as many vaccines. That doesn't help anything. That only makes it worse. Then there's been the fortification of food for longer periods of time. And then there's all the chemicals and the cosmetics, and everything's getting better living through chemicals, right? Hardly. I saw somebody on Twitter today trying to tell me that Cancer is not caused by toxins, and there's no such thing as a carcinogen. And I was like, okay. People are bonkers. They're absolutely bonkers. This woman was like, they've been curing cancer in Europe since the 1930s, and I'm like, do you think anything today is like the 1930s in terms of toxicity? Do you really think that fixing the toxicity problems of the 1930s is anything like the 2020s? It's nothing like it. We have generations of toxicity being handed down. Ladies, if you don't know this, you want to detox yourself of all this poison so you don't give it to your children. And men, if you're toxic, it's damaging the DNA in your sperm. And so you're handing down weak, defective sperm. Fix it. This is what we do. We regularly have people, families, who tell us that the children they have after they've been doing this are the healthiest of their kids. The pregnancy goes the easiest, and the kids are the healthiest. Is that not what you want? Or do you want to go spend tens of thousands of dollars on IVF and IUI or whatever the heck they call it? And yes, you may need to do that, but still, if you're healthier through the pregnancy, then that baby's going to be healthier. And don't eat the placenta. Oh my gosh. The placenta is a disposable liver for pregnancy. It's a disposable liver. That's what it does. So that when the baby's born, the hopes are that the baby's liver is clean because the placenta soaked it all up. And then you have some people eating it. And yes, did I do this with my ex-wife for both of our kids? Yes, I did the dehydrating it and putting it into capsules. And I will never do that again. I will never recommend that again. Throw that thing in the garbage where it belongs. But I want to make sure. So an enlarged right segment of the liver, isn't that? I think that's the part of the liver that in the Bible they said to throw away. There's a lobe of the liver that they specifically say to throw away. But an enlarged liver is just, it's not a sign of something good. Now, for liver pain, especially for those who have pain over their liver or their gallbladder, one of the things you can do is to make what we call charcoal lotion, which is where you mix relatively equal parts of lotion and charcoal together. You got to mush them together, make it into like a thick paste. And it might be a little less charcoal than lotion. I think that's probably a better mix. It's just a bit less charcoal. Like if you measured it out, let's say a teaspoon of lotion and 3/4 of a teaspoon of charcoal is probably a better mix, an easier mix. And then you put that on like a thick paste over your liver, your pain area. I had my daughter do it for her menstrual cramps, which so my daughter just got her period later than most girls, which I'm super happy about. She got it at 14. I'm super happy about that. And if you don't know why, you don't understand that there's girls getting their periods at like 8 now because there's so much toxic estrogenic stuff in the environment. Oh, I don't know, like copper and vitamin A. So my daughter getting at 14, I didn't mind, but so we now have scoliosis, which may be related to a zinc deficiency. And if my daughter's getting menstrual cramps, that's another marker of zinc deficiency. So what do I have her doing? I have her doing some of my new liquid zinc because it's much easier to get kids to take liquids than it is to get them to take pills. So, but she did the charcoal lotion over her lower abdomen, did it for the 20 minutes minimum I suggested, washed it off, took a nap, woke up, menstrual cramps were gone. And I was pretty happy about that. So, yeah, do I want her to have the menstrual cramps in the first place? No, but testing, as you all know, parenting, testing kids and doing all that stuff can be tough, especially when we have a separated household. So I'm doing the best I can. And we'll fix it. So we're at 9:06. Monica asks, hi, Dr. Smith, if genetics load the gun and environment pulls the trigger. This is true. Could a celiac person ever eat gluten again? Thanks for your amazing work. Okay, you're welcome. And I'll go check for more super chats in case I missed them. So I've been over the study where it showed that in the mice model, they could not create celiac in the mice cells without retinoic acid. They could not cause celiac without vitamin A present. They could not cause celiac to happen without vitamin A present. So if we were to get rid of the vitamin A toxicity, and especially the vitamin A in the bile, I mean, understand celiac, right? They talk about the villi, right? The villi of the intestines, the little fingers that help you absorb nutrients, are getting basically dissolved away. Retinoic acid, what do they use it on people's faces for? Oh, to dissolve their face skin. Weird. How does the body get rid of vitamin A? Through the bile? What does the bile go and then coat? Oh, your intestinal walls. Researchers couldn't cause celiac without retinoic acid, vitamin A present. They couldn't dissolve the tissue without retinoic acid present. They use retinoic acid as chemical peels to dissolve face skin. Are you seeing how it's all connected? So in theory, we have some people who were very gluten. So we have a guy who is very gluten sensitive, not celiac, but he's able to eat wheat now without an obvious problem. And we have another woman who was very, very severely celiac. I'm not going to say her name here, but she's in the program, and if you're in the program, she'd happily talk to you. Who now, she used to say if she got gluten, like even gluten dust in something, she might be laid up for like 3 days with problems. She says that that's not happening anymore. She's not going out and eating like loaves of bread, but she's also not super severely sensitive to any gluten in her food anymore. Her husband is extremely happy, and he's commented on my Twitter feed about it. So is it possible? Could we move her in that direction? Sure. Yeah. The thing about it is that I'm just going to tell you is that, like, if somebody gets to that point and they're that sensitive, they're probably always going to have kind of a weak spot. That's always going to kind of be a weak spot in their armor. So they may never be able to eat like pieces of bread again. But if they go to a restaurant and some gluten slips into their food, or they eat something with it and they didn't know it, they may not have much of a problem. It's kind of like an example like this would be somebody who was a smoker, smoked for decades, then they quit. Who around is the most sensitive to cigarette smoke? The people who used to be cigarette smokers, right? They're the ones who are the most sensitive to it typically. They're the ones who hate being around it the most because that's a weak spot. You're never going to be brand new again. So if we've all caused our health issues, there's always going to be some residual stuff from that. Or your body's going to say, think of it this way. Your body could be trying to protect you. Your body says, I know that thing, cigarettes or gluten or whatever, is super, that caused me more problems than anything else ever. So as soon as that comes in, I'm going to tell you, you don't like this. Can't that be a body's mechanism for defense? Saying, we had problems with this before. How about you don't do that? I'm going to tell you that you feel bad quickly so that you avoid it. Doesn't that make sense? If our bodies are intelligent, if you were able to poison yourself with smoking for decades, and then all of a sudden you start avoiding it, what does your body learn? Well, a toxic body doesn't recognize toxins well. Obviously, you already got deep into the toxicity. Poison begets poison. The more toxic you are, the more toxic things you want. It's a weird thing. We would love to think that the body's smart, but I mean, how would alcoholism happen if our body was smart enough to avoid toxins? Or is it that we, for whatever emotional, like Gabor Mate's work, where people like have a disconnect with their community and others around them, and that's why like the mice experiments where they would go after the heroin water or whatever, and then when they had nice social interactions and a community thing for the mice, they didn't go after it hardly at all. So maybe there's a society thing that would drive people to consume toxins, and they do, and they get more toxic. And the weird thing is, the more toxic you are, the more toxins you want. I call that poison begets poison. I don't know why it happens. I'm not the grand designer of things. It just happens. And then it's what we see in the program is as people get cleaner, they want fewer toxins. So it's a positive cycle or a negative cycle, depending upon which way you're going. The problem is in the health world, they tell you to eat all these toxins, and then you want to eat more toxins. Then you have all these people trying to be healthy going like, I can't stop eating sugar. I can't give up alcohol. I can't give up coffee. I can't give up whatever. And it's because they don't realize that they're still poisoning themselves, and then their body wants more poisons. Like I've never found it as easy to say no to sugar in my life as it is now. Like a lot of people on the program, as they get healthier and healthier, we don't do sugar detoxes. People lose their taste for it as they get healthier because their body doesn't want it and doesn't crave it. So anyway, yeah, do I think that it is potentially possible to I won't use the C word, to permanently correct celiac? I think it's possible, yes. Autoimmunity is toxicity. Full stop. Cancer is toxicity. Full stop. Can we fix toxicity? Yes, I do believe so. As long as people aren't so deep into the toxicity, here's where I think there may be a point of no return. Like totaling the car kind of thing. So your body, living every day, makes a certain amount of waste. Right? It's just like your car exhaust. Your car makes exhaust, a certain amount of waste. Do you know that all your neurotransmitters in your brain break down to aldehydes at some point? Do you know that they think the cause of Alzheimer's is dopaldehyde? Dopal, D-O-P-A-L. They say it so they don't tell you that it's an aldehyde, but it's dopaldehyde. They think that it's actually the dopamine breaking down into the dopaldehyde, and the dopaldehyde is not broken down. Gosh, like retinaldehyde, like acetaldehyde, like formaldehyde? Weird aldehydes are problems, huh? The dopaldehyde is actually what degrades the brain tissue. So the same so then they give you what? What do they give you for Parkinson's as a medication? If I said Alzheimer's before, I meant Parkinson's. What do they give for Parkinson's as a medication? They give Dopal. They give dopamine. Sorry, they give dopamine, carbidopa, levodopa. They give dopamine. What is dopamine going to break down into? Oh, dopaldehyde. What do they say happens when they give you carbidopa, levodopa? Oh, it's going to help your symptoms for a while, but then they're going to get bad again. They're going to get worse, and then we're going to have to give you more. And then your symptoms are going to be a little better for a while, and then they're going to get worse, even worse. And then we're going to have to give you more. And at some point, it doesn't work anymore. They're causing the problem to worsen in the brain. But anyway, so your body makes waste. Aldehydes, acids. It makes waste just by living. So imagine this. Let's say you get somebody who has had so much toxicity in them. Toxicity slows your detox systems. This is why, the more toxicity you have in you, the slower it makes your detox systems run. It's a vicious cycle. This is why removing the toxins from the intake is the most important first step. You have to stop putting them in so that your body can start ramping back up, taking the emergency brake off your detox system. Not everybody does that first. They're like, oh, we'll just take these herbs and other things and jack up your detox system. No, that's like putting a turbocharger on a crappy Volkswagen. All you're going to do is burn out the engine faster. It can't handle it. It's a crappy little engine that's dirty. How about if we tuned up the engine and we stopped putting in crappy gas and we change the oil and we do all these things to make the engine run the way it's supposed to first before we try to ramp it up. Doesn't that make sense? So I got off track there. I think I answered it. Oh, so no. So it was that. So imagine this: if your body, if let's say let's just make an example, a senior citizen, if their body was so full of toxins and their detox system had slowed down enough because of the toxins and that negative cycle, that their body could not even get rid of the waste it produced on a daily basis, how in the world will it ever get to unloading all of that toxicity that's stored in the system? Do you see what I mean? If it's just like a job, right? If you can't even deal with your daily amount of work, schoolwork, job work, if you couldn't even keep up with your daily amounts of work that came in on a daily basis, and you have a backlog of stuff, how are you ever going to get to that backlog? You never will. That is what I think is like the point of no return, where it's like the ability to detox has gone below the amount of toxins that you're making on a daily basis just by being alive. That's where I have my concerns. However, now we're seeing with some of the laser helmet that I'm doing on my mom with her Parkinson's, I was worried that she had passed that point, but she seems to be making improvements now. What does the laser helmet do? It speeds up your aldehyde dehydrogenase enzymes. That's what red light does, folks. I went over this in a past inner circle or past live stream. Okay. So let's see. Reconnect to health. Well, let me check for any other. Who was it? What was it? Rhiannon? Let me just do a search here. Oh, there it is. Let me see. Okay, there's Rhiannon. So I got your question, Rhiannon. My question is that why does the bright yellow color signifying danger / poison cut against the delicious flavor of, say, pineapple or mango? I seem to be getting mixed messages from nature / God. Yellow things would tend to be poison, and poisons tend to be bitter. And how does nature fool you into eating them? It adds a bunch of sugar. People always wonder, why is all the sweetest fruit have so much vitamin A in it? Because nature's got to get animals and everybody to eat it. Just because there's lots of things. I mean, nature's tricky. It's tricky. But you can get white pineapple. There's white pineapple. Much less toxic. You can always make better choices within the same family of foods. I mean, people do drugs because they say they feel good on them. Right? I mean, certain things can make us feel good short term, and that's not necessarily good for us. And like I'm saying, over time, people on this program tend to, they might still eat some fruit. Like I still eat bananas, but I don't do it for the sugar. I do it mainly for the potassium and because I need something that's easy to digest before I work out. And bananas fit the bill. But am I eating them because I like the sugar? No, not at all. So, and I know, like, the funny thing, so pineapple or mango down in the tropic, those are, mostly tropical fruit. I know personally, me being, 97.5% Northern European, Scandinavian, there sure wasn't much sweet tropical fruits in my my genetic history. So, yeah, nature's confusing. This is why we have, and you got to know that a lot of the fruits today are nothing like the fruits 500 years ago. We have so messed with them. People think that like the Italians have been eating like tomatoes forever, and it's like, no, they came over from the New World maybe 1600, and people used to regard them as poisonous. They were right. How could they have come up with an idea that they were poisonous way back then when they didn't have all this science? They would watch people. They would watch nature. Do they eat these things? But yeah, the yellow is the color of often bitterness. And that's why you got to remember, Strategies in nature are to get things to be reproduced. So they'll use tricks. Nature can use tricks. You're not going to get a great answer for all of it all the time, but the yellow color of, there's, oh man, the tropical fruit. If you eat bright yellow fruit with almost no fat or no fat at all, like if you just eat the fruit by itself, you're barely going to absorb any of the carotenoids, the vitamin A. I'm not saying to go out and do a bunch of it, but I'm saying it's the fat that you absorb with it that causes you to absorb it. So if you wanted to eat a high vitamin A fruit, eat it away from other fats and you will minimize the damage. Did I just suggest that everybody go out and do that? No, I did not. Am I going to do it? No, I'm not. But if people out there want to like cause the least damage and they're going to do it anyway, don't combine. If you're going to eat a vitamin A food, don't combine it with a bunch of fat. It's very simple. And what is everybody doing these days? They're fat maxing. You got the carnivore, the keto carnivore, nose to tail, eating just, I love how the carnivore is like, eat butter. And I'm like, butter's carnivore and butter. And now they're like, eat cheese. And I'm like, oh, geez, come on now. And they're using honey. I see Saladino and I'm like, oh, the crash and burn is coming. We talked about that on Twitter the other day. He doesn't look healthy to me. If you watch his arm movements look very frail. They look like a 70, 80, 90-year-old man's arm movements. I don't care that he's still surfing. There's 70 to 80, 90-year-old men who are still surfing who have the same weak arm movements. So the loving the sugar, remember how I told you poison begets poison. People who really feel like they need a lot of sugar, probably pretty toxic. Poison begets poison. So let me look. So I hope that answers it. But yeah, a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people have really noticed that as they go on in the program, their desires for the foods that they used to think were really good. Like Julie told me this one day. She said, her and her husband, Julie's my practice manager. She said one weekend, they were going to cheat and her husband made bacon. Pork is not something I suggest eating as a general rule. They made bacon. They tried it. They both did not want it and they threw it away. They both did not like the taste of bacon. And they were like, we used to love this stuff. Why? And they, but then they realized that she knows. I mean, obviously Julie knows what I talk about, and they just didn't want to eat it, and they tossed it out. S.O. Sarah, the brand of liquid zinc is on the store. You can email Julie about it. Let me just double check. I see your super chat, Emma. Thank you all for coming today. Let me just... And just remember, so people get into, well, people didn't have to eat this way in the past. People weren't this toxic in the past. 100 years ago, how many pokes were people getting? How often did they run to antibiotics as the first defense against anything? How often were they using retinoic or Accutane or glyphosate, which came about in the 70s, and that's when the obesity rates started to rise. Glyphosate slows vitamin A detox. If you slow detox, you increase toxicity at lower doses. Does that make sense? This is how it works. We are more toxic today because of more exposure to things that have injured our liver. And so therefore we have to take different actions because you're not your great-great-grandpa or grandma. You are not them. You are not in the world that they grew up in. You are in a much more toxic world, and we have to protect ourselves from this world, and it means we have to take more actions than they did. Do not compare people from 100 years ago or even 50 years ago to people. Well, actually, 50 years ago is getting pretty close because 50 years ago is 1973. My goodness. That was when they first came out with glyphosate to spray on crops, I think, 73 or 74. I love when people show those pictures of the 1970s beaches, right? And all the people were all like normal weight, just about. And then glyphosate hit the scene. And then Stephanie Seneff wrote papers about how glyphosate slows down retinoic acid metabolism, vitamin A metabolism, in one paper or two papers, and then she never mentioned it again. And then she got on the board of the Weston Price Foundation, who love vitamin A. And it was strange that she suddenly stopped talking about it. What a coincidence. Sad. Sad is what it is. Let's see. Okay. Amma, please explain raw honey. I am in love with it. Well, we just talked about sugar in the fruits. Sugar addiction is very real. And the more toxic people are, the more problems they have with sugar. People love to get into the, well, this type of sugar has nutrients with it. I mean, I'm going to tell you what. Here, let's go look. Okay. So, right here. Identification of sugars and phenolic compounds in honey powders with the use of GCMS, FTI, or spectroscopy and X-ray diffraction. This work aimed at the chemical and structural characterization of powders obtained from chestnut flower honey and honey with Inca berry. What did they find? Here we go. Introduction. This is all I'm going to read of it, just so you understand what's in honey and why it might be addictive. Honey is an aromatic, sweet, and natural food which is consumed by people around the world. It mainly comprises sugars, water, and other constituents such as enzymes, amino acids, organic acids, vitamins, minerals, carotenoids, and aromatic substances. Probably like polyphenols, phenols, which are toxic. The darker the honey, the more carotenoids and phenols it has in it. What does everybody want? I want the dark egg yolks and I want the dark honey, and then they wonder why they just keep getting sicker and sicker and sicker. Plants mark toxins with dark or bright or strong colors. They mark toxins with bitter tastes. They mark toxins with strong scents, odors, smells. That is how nature marks toxins. So the darker the honey, the more toxic it is. The more carotenoids that were in the plants that the bees were getting the pollen from. And if you ever looked at pollen, what color is pollen? Like yellowish, orangish, full of vitamin A. If you look at seed oils, what color are seed oils? Yellow. Gosh, I wonder where the yellow color came from. Somebody on Twitter said that they looked up seed oils and there was no vitamin A in it. And then I show them the research that shows that there's carotenoids in seeds. Absolutely. They don't want you to know all this stuff. But I mean, absolutely, like fructose, high fructose diet. So I'm not saying, so some people go, fructose, oh my God, you said I can't eat fruit. I did not just say that. I did not say that at all. High fructose diets, high fructose content diets is one way they cause liver injury. And don't think that just because it's in honey, the fructose doesn't do the same thing metabolically to people. Oh, where was it? What was that? There's the paper Fructose. It's alcohol without the buzz. A good one to read, where they compare the known damages to the liver from fructose versus the known damages to the liver from alcohol. I mean, if you're doing a little bit of honey here and there, I'm not worried about that. But I mean, I watched the Paul Saladino video of what he eats in a day, and he put a layer of like honey this thick at the bottom of his milk, of his raw milk. And I'm like, talk about like a diabetic bomb. My goodness. I used to be part of the Agnes von der Planet's Primal Diet group, where people would make milkshakes, and I did this too, with raw milk and raw honey and eggs. Did it taste good? Sure. Did I gain a bunch of weight on that program? Yeah. What happened to the women on that program? I'm just going to be blunt. The women who were doing all that raw dairy and eggs and honey and stuff, they got obese. And they thought they were healing themselves. Same thing happens to especially women who do Ray Peat stuff. They just get obese. And you know what they call it in these circles? They call it healing pounds. You're just gaining some healing pounds. So when the woman I was working with who gained 100 pounds doing Ray Peat, at what point was that going to turn around? When maybe 200 pounds of healing pounds? It was just going to turn itself around? This is lunacy. People who are underweight, as they get healthier, will gain some weight and keep it on more easily. People who are gaining weight in a bad way on any program, it's not healing pounds. It's not. There's no such thing, except for underweight people where they're gaining it in a good way because they're becoming healthier first, and then their body is able to keep the weight on. Anybody who's gaining a bunch of body fat, that's not healing pounds. That's storing more toxins. Your body is storing more toxins. That's why it's making more body fat. Weird that high sugar diets tend to put on weight so easily, right? What could be coming in with the sugar, or what is the sugar causing? You just saw that article. Fructose, it's alcohol without the buzz. Huh. Weird coincidence. Humans never had crazy amounts of honey available to them on a regular basis until recently. Same thing with dairy. Imagine dairy 150 years ago. Much less back in biblical times. How much dairy do you think they had available? It was seasonal, and it always went to the calves first. So how much do you think was left? And then if you take out the milk from the cow and you get milk from the cow or the goat or whatever, and you want butter, what are you left with? You're left with skim milk. You don't have just a bunch of like regular milk and cream and butter and all that stuff. No, it all comes from the same milk. So just the idea that we had huge amounts of dairy and honey and all this stuff around, it's ludicrous. So when people were doing lesser amounts of these things, I mean, just remember, like I remember the funny thing about Joe Rogan's stand-up, one of his stand-up things. And he said, you know what it looks like when I look at those pictures from like the late 1800s or the very early 1900s of people? He said they all look kind of grumpy, right? They're none of them are smiling. You know, in those old pictures, nobody's smiling. He said they all just look hungry. How could people overeat crappy things for them when they're not even eating enough and they're always hungry? We have too much of everything around right now. So that's part of why we have to eliminate some of the foods that are the worst for us, or at least massively reduce them. We have too much of everything around, especially toxic stuff. So, but yeah, eating spoonfuls of raw honey is not doing your health any favors. If you were underfed, like this is the crazy thing about people with like, oh my gosh, butter saved everybody, or raw honey came in and did this. You ever seen a vegan? You ever seen how malnourished they look? Like they just don't eat enough food? Imagine this, giving somebody who is malnourished more calories, protein, fat, carbohydrates, easily absorbed, and you start seeing their health problems go away that were related to them being in a starvation state. It's not hard to improve somebody who's in a starvation state. You give them some food. And people will be like, oh, this wonder food came in with this guy. And it's like, no, they just started eating more food. So if you're going to do some raw honey, I would consider it a treat, and I would make it not a regular thing. That's my suggestion on that. Don't make honey. I mean, don't make sugar like the only thing the one exception I have is a couple of fruits. The favorite fruits of the Love Your Liver program, and we're talking about bananas. We're talking about apples. Best is peeled, but I don't peel mine. And green grapes. Those are the best ones. If somebody was able to eat enough of those fruits to cause themselves a health problem, I would be shocked. But could people eat half a tub of raw honey in a sitting? Sure. That could do some real damage. People mix honey into all sorts of things, and then, drinking calories, mixing honey into drinks. Let me just tell you, one of the fastest ways to get fat and sick is to drink calories. Drink water, clean water. Don't drink calories. What's the easiest way to add calories to drinks? Sugar. So, let me see. You're welcome, Emma. Sarah, I'm just going to, SO, I'm just going to say this right now. I just saw your little question. Grapefruit is absolutely poison to the liver. Grapefruit is absolutely poison to the liver. It slows everything in the liver down. This is why they tell people not to use grapefruit with certain medications. Because why? It slows down the liver, so you build up the poison in your blood more. Grapefruit is horrendous for your liver. If you have a grapefruit tree, give it to people you don't like. Not that that's not very nice, but it's not very Christian. But if they want the grapefruit and you got the grapefruit, I mean, hey, that's up to you. Don't eat it. Quick story on grapefruit. I was in medical school. We had bought a house up in Tempe, close to my school. And in the house, in the backyard, was a big grapefruit tree that put out grapefruit, the size of a child's head. And I liked it. I like grapefruit. I'm not going to say I don't like grapefruit. Again, like the example of like the mangoes and the pineapple. I like grapefruit. And I would eat one of those big grapefruits a day. And after, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months of that, I was noticing I wasn't feeling good. This has happened to me multiple times. Part of how I got here was I ate the poisons, and I just figured it out. And I stopped eating the grapefruits. I was like, wait, I remember in class they were talking about grapefruits being, you can't eat it with certain medications and do all this stuff. I'm like, that must be affecting something like your liver. So I took the grapefruit out, and after about a week, I felt so much better. And I went, okay, I'm not doing grapefruit anymore. That was easy. Yeah, let me see. Grapefruit. That's CYP 450. That's what you want to look up. That's the cytochrome P450 system. Oh, wait. Here we go. Let me link this study. This should explain it. The title should explain this well enough. And I do see the super chat from you, Israel. I will get to that. So just I'm sorry. It's not potential. Potent inhibition, slowing down of human cytochrome P450, 3A4, 2D6, and 2C9 isoenzymes by grapefruit juice and its fucocoumarins. You do not want to slow down any cytochrome P450 systems. And they said pomelo juice here too. Cytochrome 3A4 is the detox pathway in your liver that detoxes the most things that we know about. Okay. Grapefruit slows down your liver. Don't do grapefruit. Okay. So Israel De Leon asks, any tips or tricks on quitting caffeine? I'm terribly addicted. Well, obviously the first step is always to admit you have a problem. That's the first step. So you're good. So what I would suggest, what I have done in the past is whatever amount. So first you need to have it's easiest if you have a stable amount that you're doing daily. Like, let's just say somebody was doing 3 cups a day of coffee. I'm just going to throw something out there, just a number. 3 cups of coffee a day. And they're like, I want to quit coffee. So what's the first step? Well, going down from 3 cups a day to 2 cups a day for a week, or even 2, if you're really worried about it, we're just going to wean. The weaning is the easiest way. So you might go down. So at 1 week, you go down to 2 cups a day and you stay there for a week or 2, depending upon how slow you want to go. You probably won't notice much. Maybe the first day or 2, you'll be like, oh, I'm a little more tired. You won't notice much. When you're going from your very top dose to the next level down, like maybe you're going down by, if you go down by a cup of coffee, if that's what you're doing every week, if you go down by a quarter of your dose, it's not a bad jump for caffeine. So, I mean, first of all, and first you cut out the stuff later in the day, like the stuff closer to bedtime, nighttime, evening. That's your first cut. You cut that out. There's no need for that. Like that's so you could cut it out during your day, from later in the day first, and then you could just reduce your total in the day. So you go down from like 3 cups to 2 cups for a week or 2. And then you go from 2 cups to 1 cup over a week or 2. Now, this is the hard part. When you get to the 1 cup, I actually, so if you have to work, like the jumping off of caffeine, like completely the cold turkey, depending upon how much caffeine you were drinking, that can be like, that could really affect your work. Like when I used to quit coffee and I would jump off of it too fast in the afternoons in the first week, I'd be like it was bad. Like yeah. So weaning off down from like 1 cup of coffee or the equivalent of a cup of coffee worth of caffeine, I would go from 1 cup down to a half a cup. I would not jump from 1 cup off. If people are going to do the jumping off of it, like just cold turkey, whatever you're on, and you're just going to cold turkey it, you better have like 3 days, 2 or 3 or 4 days where you don't have a lot to do at work or with the kids or whatever, because it's going to be a rough 2 or 3 or 4 days. You might need something for headaches. It's going to be rough. That's why I weaned. That's what I do when I need to do something like this. It's an addiction, right? It's like getting off of medications or drugs, because it is a drug. So yeah, weaning off. And then that last week, I know that I would always, when I used to wean off, I would tell my kids the first day I'm off, I always made sure that my first day without caffeine, I was going to be at home. I was going to have nothing important that I was going to do that day, or at least I just said, I'm not doing anything important today. And I told the kids, and I told the ex-wife at the time, I said, I'm going to be grumpy today. I am quitting coffee. I am going to take a nap in the afternoon because I'm going to need it. Don't ask me what's wrong 20 times, please. Like I set everybody up because I did this a couple times. And I knew what was going to happen. And so I just told everybody. And if people were asking me, Dad, what's wrong? You look upset. And I'm like, I quit coffee today. I told you, don't ask me that. Because I knew I was going to be grumpy and I knew I was going to take a nap. That's the only time I generally take a nap, is the day I quit coffee. And then I knew the next week in the afternoons, I was going to be tired. And I just had to accept it. But I weaned down over, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. I typically did a week per jump. And it wasn't until I went from like the 1 cup to the half a cup that it was really noticeable in terms of my performance. And then from when you make the jump from the half cup to 0, that's the next week is going to kind of suck. I had a lot of yawning in the afternoons and feeling tired and just going, of course your brain goes, why don't you just go have some coffee? And you go, no. If somebody really wanted to wean off slowly, they might do some green tea for a bit. Black tea is probably too strong in terms of caffeine. So you might do some green tea for a bit. Or even if you decide to jump off a coffee cold turkey, then you may need some green tea to help keep the headaches away if you wanted to medicate with that. But you're medicating with caffeine. It's the hair of the dog. But could you do that? And then you got to get off the green tea later if you want to get off caffeine. Then you just got a new thing to get off of, which is easier. But yeah, taurine might help. They put taurine in Red Bull so that people can drink more Red Bulls and not have as much of this. It's not the taurine that causes the problems with the Red Bull. It's the caffeine plus the alcohol. Blaming taurine is like ludicrous. Happens with other energy drinks that don't have taurine, folks. Energy drinks are bad. So, I love now I'm seeing on, I saw my son pointed out, we were at Costco the other day. My son pointed out the new energy drink from The Rock. Multiple artificial sweeteners. Like, I love how it says on it, natural caffeine. I'm like, is this like a sales point now? Oh, it's natural caffeine. I mean, and it was just such garbage. All the food colorings in it, natural flavors. It's like, what is this garbage? The Rock is after you being a healthy person. Don't make a mistake. Right. Anyway. So yeah, Fabuladium says she tapered down slowly over a month. Yeah, that's the easiest way. Like if you give each drop like a quarter, you drop by maybe a quarter or a third, you don't really feel it until like you get to that last quarter or third. And you just got to realize, I mean, the thing you have to realize, this is the wake up call, right? As you were saying, Israel, you're addicted. That means it's a drug. If you can't have a normal day without caffeine, or you have to have caffeine just to be normal again, that's withdrawals. If your caffeine use goes up over time, you're building a tolerance. If you stop using the drug one day or for any extended amount of time and you have symptoms that you normally wouldn't have, those are called withdrawals. Those are the two indicators of a drug that is addictive. Drugs that are addictive are not good for us. This should be simple. Then people will be like, but what about the study where people drank 12 cups of coffee a day and they didn't get Alzheimer's? Or they had less chance of getting Alzheimer's. Cool, but what other diseases did they get that the study wasn't looking for? Do you see how they can manipulate science? They can easily just say, well, oh, wait. The scientists go, well, we need to make a good paper about the benefits of coffee. This is what we're getting paid to do. The coffee producers want us to make a good scientific paper about the benefits of coffee for some health condition. So they get all this data on people and they look at what diseases did they get and how much coffee did they drink and what diseases did they not get and how much coffee did they drink. And then they could very easily just look at it and go, oh, who drinks more than 12 cups of coffee a day? That's insane. They're not drinking water. They're just drinking coffee. That is insane. And then they sell it to people in the mainstream media as coffee drinkers get less Alzheimer's. And then you look at the paper and it's like 12 cups of coffee a day. And you go, well, what else did they die from? Because they're probably dying from something else. They are manipulating us. Coffee is a $100 billion industry. Do you think they could buy a couple scientists to tell you that it's good for you? How many billions is the trillions is the alcohol industry? Do you think they could pay a couple of scientists to try to make up some stuff or find some super little tweaked science down there that they could then say, oh, people who drink, it's always like 1 to 2 drinks at the most. But then there's plenty of other research out there that says there is no amount of alcohol that has been shown to be beneficial to health, which is more like how you should think of it. That doesn't mean that every bit of sugar you eat, every bit of carbs you eat, some of it turns into alcohol. This is true. So if you eat carbs, you're not alcohol free. This is the metabolism of the body. Just like if you eat vitamin A, you turn some of it into retin A and Accutane and a chemotherapy vitamin A called alitretinoin in your body. This is the metabolism of it. This is undeniable. So, let me see. Okay, Pierre's saying Ramon had 2 super chats, so let me go look. I'll look at I'll find it. I see you guys. I see you. I got you. Ramon's like my super chat champion. Thanks, Ramon. And thank you for the question, Emma. Okay, let me find Ramon's question. I've seen one. One more question. There it is. Okay. One more question. Would you consider dedicating the intro of a live stream to why and how the gallbladder goes bad, removal, and life without it? Again, thanks. Sure. I will make that the topic of next week's live stream. Let me put it on my list. I still use paper lists. I shouldn't say that. I don't like electronic lists because the day I can stop using computers, I'll be a very happy man. Even though I love researching on them, I do not. So I'm going to move my desk. There we go. So I just want you to think about this. Gallbladder. I'll go into the research. What does the gallbladder hold? What is it made to hold? Toxic bile. Imagine this. The gallbladder is designed by God to hold the most toxic fluid in your entire body. So if the gallbladder goes bad, think about what that's saying about how toxic that person's bile is. This is very, very important to think about. This is like, why does the stomach get ulcers from bile? Because the stomach was designed for stomach acid, not bile. So you get bile in the stomach. It's not protected. It's not made to fight against that. Bile is actually overall, even though we call it bile acids, bile is alkaline. And then in the alternative world, they say stomach acid problems are actually, when you get GERD and reflux and all that, it's low stomach acid. So stomach acid is acidic. So what could you add to stomach acid that's alkaline that would then lower or raise the pH of the stomach to make it so you don't digest well and you get problems? And it eats. Remember how we talked about retinoic acid as being a chemical peel that dissolves skin? Gosh, what if you got too much chemical peel in one spot of the stomach over and over? Do you think it would eat a hole in it? This should all make sense. The stomach's not designed for bile. It makes it too alkaline. You get problems. You eat holes in your stomach. And then you get bile burping up here because we all burp. There's always air coming back up like on burping kind of basis. You may not notice it much, but it's always happening. And then you burp up bile into your throat and you get a chronic cough. And, they talk about that, the chronic cough of GERD, where people don't say they have heartburn, but they have this chronic cough that doesn't go away. And they'll say it's acid reflux. The stomach acid inhibitors probably inhibit bile. I haven't looked into that yet, but that's probably what they do because most medications that help slow down bile production. That's how they work. But yeah, so toxic bile, it's getting so toxic, it's eating away at the gallbladder. Let me do a quick little search. Let's do this. Toxic bile gallbladder PubMed. Let's just see if anybody's. Let's see. Well, that's not really it looks like a good ooh. Here's a fun little paper. 2005. So you know how there's like, okay, so let me set you up on this. So Ramon, we will get to that. Thank you for the super chats. We will get to that. That will be the topic of next week. But I found this paper while I was looking for it. Bile acids are toxic for isolated cardiac mitochondria. Here, let me go find another paper. I wasn't going to do this topic today, but now I'm going to. And it's already 10 a.m. For those of you who are here listening, who are in my inner circle, thank you for your patience. We will be going in there in just a second. I simply cannot help myself from going over this right now. So here I'm going to link this paper. Liver injury following COVID-19 mRNA vaccine administration, the Dillon, D-I-L-I-N, the Dillon experience. What is liver injury? Liver injury is cholestasis. What does cholestasis cause? It causes bile to go backwards in the system into places that it's not supposed to go, particularly the bloodstream, which would then go where? Like, the heart and the brain. And it could also go back up into the stomach as one of the places. Okay? So let's just say that some of the shots cause some liver injury. Okay? Now there's a word that's been going around. Maybe you've heard of myocarditis recently, right? Inflammation of the cardiac muscle. So, you remember what I said is in bile, how the body gets rid of vitamin A, retinoic acids in the bile? This is going to blow some minds right now. So, body gets rid of vitamin A into the bile. The shots can cause the liver to get injured, which means that the toxic bile is now leaking back into the blood. I just showed you the link that said bile acids are toxic for isolated cardiac mitochondria. And then the line underneath it is a possible cause for hepatic-derived cardiomyopathies. Hepatic-derived, coming from the liver. Cardio, heart. Myo is muscle. Pathies is disease of the heart muscle. Liver-caused diseases of the heart muscle. Bile in the blood. The shots causing bile to leak into the blood. This is toxic bile theory, folks. If you need more background on toxic bile theory, go to 71, Livestream 71. Now, let's go and find out, hey, could we connect retinoic acid potentially leaking into the blood with myocarditis? Can we? Oh, you know what's coming now. Can't find it on this search. I'll have to look on my phone because I have it on my phone. Oh, here it is. All trans retinoic acid induced isolated myocarditis. There's that paper. Getting interesting, is it not? Now, Wait. This didn't open it. Open. So now let's go into retinoic acid as a vaccine adjuvant enhances CD8 plus T cell response and mucosal protection from viral challenge. Gosh, did you know that they've studied retinoic acid as an adjuvant to vaccines? Interesting. What does an adjuvant do? It stimulates your immune system. It's a poison that your immune system then responds to, and they see that the rise in white blood cells, they think that's a good thing. Stimulating your immune system is not the way. Fixing your immune system is the way, and then allow it comes back up. If it's low, it comes back up on its own. Taking something that stimulates your immune system is poisonous. That's your immune system reacting to a poison. Does that make sense? If there's a lot of crime going on, where do all the cops go to? Well, that's where they should, right? But anyway, where do the cops go if there's a riot going on? They come to the riot, the toxic reaction, they go there. They were stimulated to go there. Poisons stimulate. Okay? So retinoic acid was studied as a vaccine ingredient. Do you remember hearing about how they were using? Who remembers the lipid nanoparticles that they talked about as part of one of the new things that was going on in these pokies? Oh wait, let me put in the keyword. Okay, I gotta find. So here's a paper, mRNA vaccine delivery using lipid nanoparticles. mRNA vaccine delivery using lipid nanoparticles. Okay. What might they put? What's the possibility that they might put in the lipid nanoparticles? You probably know what's coming. Here, let's do two papers. Oops, not that. Don't do that. Do this. First one, all trans retinoic acid loaded lipid nanoparticles as a transdermal drug delivery carrier. Gosh, you mean they put retinoic acid into lipid nanoparticles and they use retinoic acid as a vaccine adjuvant? And retinoic acid has been connected with causing myocarditis? And the shots have been connected with causing liver injury and bile going back into the blood, which contains retinoic acid? And bile being shown from the liver, hepatic derived cardiomyopathies, heart muscle diseases. Here's another paper. Retinoic acid loaded solid lipid nanoparticles surrounded by chitosan film support diabetic wound healing in vivo study. Yes, I'm smirking. I hope you understand the implications of what I just went over. So, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. We're just going over studies. We're just You intelligent people out there can draw your own pattern recognition conclusions, question everything. And I got to get going to my inner circle now. So for those of you who remember, we do this every Friday here. If you're here, make sure to if you're not chatting, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to like the video. If you're here later, make sure to leave a comment. That helps the computers know that you like this. Yeah. So Dr. Garrett Smith, the nutrition detective. Hope that was fun. That might have been a little mind-blowing for some of you. And Grant Genereux and Anthony Mawson and I have discussed this, and we are in complete agreement of what may have been included in certain things. So hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see you on Twitter or around the Love Your Liver network, inside the Love Your Liver, and the Nutrition Detective Network inside the Love Your Liver program. But anyway, I'm going to go. Have a great weekend. Bye now.